The Poetic Storyteller presents Halloween Horror Marathon. Stay if you dare.
The Candy Trickster. 7-year-old Timmy was the sweetest boy on the block, or so everyone thought. With his bright eyes and shy smile, he was the perfect Halloween image, a tiny angel with a bucket full of treats. But Timmy didn't go trick-or-treating like other kids. Instead, he went from house to house, slipping into yards unseen. His candy bucket was filled with razor blades, cockroaches, and things darker and nastier you dare not imagine. At each doorstep, he reached inside the candy bowls, slow, careful, and swapped sweets for horrors. Neighbors smiled, oblivious, as they poured candy into their Halloween bowls. But the children who reached inside started screaming. Sharp metal cut little fingers, dead insects spilled into candy bags. Timmy's eyes sparkled with wicked delight as he watched from the shadows, silent and sweet. When asked where he got his candy, Timmy only smiled wide, too wide, showing crooked, almost razor-sharp teeth. No one ever caught him. And every Halloween, the candy tasted a little more twisted, because Timmy was waiting, ready with his bucket of horrors. Little Georgie. The playground was ghostly quiet as dusk bled into night. Swings creaked like scratching claws on an old coffin, chains rattling in uneven, mournful rhythms, sounds that didn't belong to any living child. 7-year-old Alex tossed a trembling pebble, waiting for his mom's call to end. The air smelled sharp and cold, like rusted iron and rotting autumn leaves. That's when he saw him. A pale boy stood by the old merry-go-round, clothes faded and torn, like a sepia ghost from a forgotten Halloween long past. His hair clung wet and stringy, dripping though no rain fell. His skin was deathly white, almost glowing against the darkening sky. The boy smiled, but it was a hollow smile. No warmth, only something hungry beneath.
Hi,
he said, voice flat and chilling like a whisper from a crypt.
I'm Georgie. Want to play?
Alex's stomach twisted with dread, but loneliness pulled harder. Okay, Georgie's grin unraveled, skin cracking and peeling like burnt bark, revealing rows of jagged, rotten teeth. He reached out a hand, ice-cold, slick, like graveyard dew. Alex flinched, but Georgie's grip was iron-cold and unbreakable. The shadows around the playground grew thick and pulsing, swallowing the last scraps of daylight whole. The air thickened, tasting like decayed pumpkins and forgotten fears. Alex tried to pull away, but Georgie's fingernails dug in like icy splinters, dragging him toward the twisted nightmare.
Let's play hide and seek,
Georgie hissed, close enough to breathe damp earth and rotten leaves onto Alex's face. But once you hide, you'll never find your way back. The playground warped, the monkey bars curling like black ribs clawing from the grave. Faint whispers oozed from broken swings and rusted slides, wrapping around Alex's ankles like cold, eager hands. He screamed, but the sound died, swallowed in the gloom. The playground fell silent beneath a blood-orange moon. Somewhere, far and faint, Georgie's voice drifted, soft, hungry.
Do you want to play?
The Tooth Fairy. The tooth wasn't real. Just a little white pebble from Lila's bracelet. But it looked close enough. She slid it under her pillow with a grin.
$5 by morning,
She whispered, flicking off the light. The room exhaled into darkness. For a while, everything was still. Then came the first sound. Scratch. 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 Fingernails on wood, beneath the bed. Lila opened her eyes. The noise stopped. A sharp, metallic scent filled the air, like rusted pipes and something sour, almost chemical. She sat up slowly. A damp spot had bloomed on the pillow beneath her cheek. She reached under it. No coin. Just something slick and warm. Her fingers curled around it. She pulled it free a tooth, still pulsing at the root, sticky with blood that wasn't hers. Then click, click, click. The tiny footsteps, bare. Not skin on floor, but bone-scraping wood. The blanket lifted slightly, as if invisible fingers tugged at it. Cold air curled beneath, wrapping around her legs like a living thing. A breath brushed her ear hot, fetid, thick with the stench of spoiled meat and something sweetly rotten, like fruit left to liquefy in the dark. A voice rasped low, cracked, almost like her mother's, then twisted into something monstrous.
You lied.
Lied to me.
The bedsheets snapped tight like jaws. The mattress dipped beneath an invisible weight. Lila screamed, but something sharp pierced her lip. Hooked teeth dragged her under. She kicked and clawed. Fingers sank into flesh not her own slick, spongy skin crawling with tiny cracks, and stubs of teeth growing everywhere. Her mind screamed, "This can't be real! It can't be real!" But the darkness swallowed her. In the morning, her parents found a single note on her bed. Written in blood across the pillowcase, only real teeth. And from beneath the bed, the faintest scratching.
My Little Twigs. Part 1. Welcome to Class 2B. The halls of Winslow Academy didn't echo. They consumed sound. Miss Halden's footsteps vanished into suffocating silence. The scent of lavender hung thick, a desperate mask over something putrid, black mildew, rotting timber, decomposition. She had never taught at an all-girls boarding school, especially not one entombed in this isolated valley, encircled by skeletal trees scratching at windows like bone-dry fingers. The principal had said almost nothing. "You're just here until we find someone permanent." A pause that stretched like skin over bone. The last teacher departed mid-lesson, left behind her coat and shoes. Miss Halden hadn't dared to ask. Now she stood outside room 2B, clutching the key until it carved into her flesh. The brass doorknob radiated unnatural chill. The door surrendered with a wail that sounded disturbingly human. They were waiting. 12 girls, unnaturally motionless, identical as grave markers. Dark blue jumpers, white socks over bloodless legs, glossy black shoes that devoured light, hair braided viciously tight, cinched with blood-red ribbons. They were smiling with too many teeth. Miss Halden's mouth turned to ash. "Good morning, class. I'm Miss Halden. I'll be your teacher for the next few weeks." They didn't blink, didn't breathe. Then, in perfect synchrony, their heads snapped toward her. 12 mechanical movements like marionettes yanked by merciless hands. 12 mouths stretched wider than physically possible.
Good morning, Miss Halden. We've been expecting you.
The temperature plummeted. Her breath crystallized. She forced herself deeper into the room, atmosphere congealing around her. Viscous, glacial, predatory. Her gaze drifted to a yellowed class photo hanging at an impossible angle. Her heart stopped. There were 13 girls in the picture. She blinked hard, looked again. 12. Only 12. But the empty space remained, a void shaped like a girl. Miss Halden turned back. The girls were still watching, still smiling, their teeth now visibly wrong, needle sharp, crowded in mouths too small. And then a wet, rasping sound. Not from the students, not from anywhere living. It crawled directly into her ear, lips brushing against skin.
You're next!
Room 313. Checkout was never an option. The sleepless inn looked like it had been dead for 20 years. The lobby reeked of rotting wood, stale cigarettes, and something else. Something that crawled up your nose and nested in your brain like a parasite. Fluorescent bulbs flickered overhead, casting seizure light across water-stained walls. They buzzed like flies, feeding on corpses. Jason needed a room, any room. The storm outside was biblical, and his car had died 3 miles back on a road that didn't exist on any map. The desk clerk's smile was too wide, too many teeth. Eyes like black marbles pressed into dough.
Room 313.
He wheezed, sliding over a brass key green with age.
3rd floor, last door on the left.
His fingers were ice cold and wet.
Checkout is whenever you're ready.
The elevator shrieked as it climbed, cables snapping and grinding like breaking bones. Each floor that passed felt like descending deeper underground, even though the numbers climbed higher. The 3rd floor hallway stretched impossibly long, carpeted in something that squelched under Jason's boots. The air was thick enough to chew, wet earth, mold, and that sickly, sweet stench of meat left in the sun for weeks. Behind the walls, voices whispered in harmony. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, speaking in tongues that predated human language. Words that made his teeth ache and his vision blur. When he stopped walking, they stopped too. When he moved, they followed. Room 313's door hung open like a mouth. A breath of pure decay rolled out. Flowers rotting in their own vase water, rusted metal, bleeding orange tears, and copper so thick it coated his tongue. The room looked normal. If you ignored the way the shadows moved when you weren't looking directly at them. If you ignored how the wallpaper seemed to pulse like exposed veins. If you ignored the wet handprints on the inside of the windows. Handprints with too many fingers. The bed was unmade. Sheets still warm and twisted into the shape of a body that had just rolled out. Jason's reflection in the mirror looked wrong. Older. Hungrier. Then he heard it. Scratching from inside the closet. Fingernails or claws. Raking wood in a rhythm like Morse code. SOS, SOS. He reached for the handle with a hand that didn't feel like his own. The scratching stopped. A voice slithered through the keyhole. Wet, broken, speaking with the tongues of everyone who'd ever died in this room.
Why did you come here, Jason?
How did it know his name?
We've been waiting for you.
The door to 313 slammed shut behind him. The lock turned with a sound like snapping vertebrae. The whispers in the walls became screams. And Jason understood, as darkness poured from every crack and corner, that checkout had never been an option. The doll in the attic. Maya found the doll in a box labeled "Do Not Open," buried deep beneath dusty, forgotten trunks in her grandma's attic. It smelled like dust, lavender, and something bitter, a sour, rancid stench, like milk curdled and left to rot in the sun. Its porcelain face was cracked, spiderweb fractures running across pale skin. One glass eye was missing, leaving a dark, hollow socket. But when she touched it, the remaining eye slowly, deliberately rolled toward her, glinting with something cold and hungry. She dropped it, the doll hitting the wooden floor with a hollow, echoing thud. That night, the house groaned and creaked, the shadows twisting in the corners of Maya's room. She lay frozen, heart pounding. Something shuffled in the hallway, tiny, uneven footsteps dragging across the warped floorboards, scraping like nails on wood. Then, the faint, eerie sound of a music box. It was singing No, humming a warped, off-key lullaby that crawled under her skin. She slipped out of bed, every nerve screaming, and crept toward the door. There it was. The doll, standing. On its own. Its cracked lips curled into a grotesque smile, a jagged, bloody grin that hadn't been carved into its face the day before. It whispered,
You shouldn't have woken me.
The attic door creaked open behind her, slowly as if pulled by invisible fingers. And something else crawled down a slick, black shape with too many limbs, dragging itself closer, its breath wet and fetid. Maya stumbled back, the music box's twisted lullaby echoing in her ears as the darkness swallowed her scream. The Boogeyman. The night was quiet, too quiet, the kind that made every creak in the house feel like it meant something. Liam lay stiff in bed, blanket pulled to his chin, eyes wide in the dark. The space under his bed felt heavier tonight, like someone was breathing under there. Slow, wet. A faint sour smell drifted up like damp earth and something long decayed. He squeezed his stuffed bear tighter, knuckles whitening. Then tap, a single knock from beneath the mattress. Tap, tap, again, like knuckles rapping on wood from the wrong side.
Mom?
He whispered, but the house didn't answer. He peeked over the edge of the bed. Nothing, just blackness, and the long drop into the dark. Then a hand, pale, too long, fingers curling over the edge of the mattress, not climbing out, holding it down. A voice slithered up from the floorboards.
You're not sleeping yet.
His blood turned to ice. The bed groaned, then jerked sharply once like something yanked it from below. He screamed as hands shot up through the mattress, through it fingers made of shadow and bone, curling around his wrists and ankles. The cold, clammy grip tasted like rust and dust, choking him with its foulness. The room plunged into darkness as the shadows thickened. Swallowing the faint glow of the nightlight, he thrashed, kicked, cried, but the grip tightened, dragging him toward the abyss beneath his bed. Then came the whisper.
Let's play, Liam.
His breath hitched as the air grew colder, the scent of decay filling his lungs. Then silence. Only the faintest creak of the floorboards remained, and the bed was empty.
The Pale One. Episode 1, The Photographer. Maya adjusted her camera in the abandoned subway tunnel, fluorescent lights flickering overhead like dying insects. Shadows slithered across graffiti-stained walls, twisted and too long. The air was heavy with rust, stagnant water, and something faintly rancid, like spoiled perfume. She muttered.
Urban Decay series, shot 12, then I'm out of here.
She didn't like tunnels, but she needed this shot, needed to prove she wasn't just some amateur chasing shadows. Her hands trembled as she steadied the camera. Her professor had insisted this stretch had atmosphere, said it hadn't been used since the 70s, said her great-grandmother used to ride this line. Maya figured it'd make a good final piece. A chilling draft crept along the cracked concrete, wrapping around her ankles like fingers. Then knock, knock, knock. She froze.
Hello?
Only her voice echoed back, warped, swallowed by the tunnel's maw. A silence followed, unnatural and tight. Maya's heart pounded louder than the buzzing lights. She peered through the viewfinder. At the far end stood a woman in a shredded wedding dress. Her skin was pale, almost glowing. Eye sockets, hollow, black abysses, and her mouth, stretched far too wide, torn open and left that way. Maya lowered the camera. Nothing there. She blinked, raised it again. The woman was closer, gliding silently, the hem of her dress dragging through something thick and black. A tar-like smear followed her. 3 more knocks echoed, slower, heavier, like a countdown. Maya's mind raced. Was she losing it? The knocking felt like it came from inside her chest. What the hell? She whispered, stumbling back. She ran, boots slamming concrete, camera bouncing against her chest. The tunnel's cold deepened, slicing into her skin. The knocking didn't grow louder, just closer, inside her bones. The fluorescent lights sputtered, blinking out, then back. She reached the stairs, turned. She hadn't moved. She had simply appeared inches from the lens. Cracked skin, rotted veil, hollow sockets. A smile stitched from shadows, and the smell, sweet rot, roses, blood, death. Maya's mouth went dry.
12?
The woman whispered. The flash exploded. Then nothing. 3 days later, they found Maya under the stairs. Frozen, eyes wide, mouth mid-scream. Cold, drained. As if she'd died a long time ago. Only one photo remained. A white face, hollow eyes, and a smile that never stopped smiling. Some say she appears in the 12th frame. Others say she never left the altar. All agree, she's always in the last photo.
Mr. Giggles. The air reeked of burnt sugar and stale popcorn, shadowed by a musty, metallic edge that clung to the back of her throat. Callie blinked awake, her back pressed to damp concrete, blinking up at a broken sign swinging overhead. Grinny's Grand Carnival, half lit in flickering bulbs, the other half drowned in shadow. She sat up slowly, fog curled at her ankles. The place was dead should be dead, yet music drifted through the still air. A warped calliope tune, off-key, dragging like it had been played one too many times on a broken machine. Pop, 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 like balloons bursting, but the sound was wetter, meatier. Then she heard footsteps, wet, slapping, fast. A shape moved in the fog, limping, too fast. She turned a clown, grinning from ear to ear. But the grin wasn't painted on, it was torn, ripped into the flesh. Stitching held the corners of his mouth in place, puckered and red. His eyes were smeared black, mascara streaked down his face like tears of blood on skin so pale it seemed dusted with ash. He held a knife, long, serrated, sticky. He didn't speak, just giggled, a wet, gurgling sound, like a laugh choked through blood. He tilted his head. The giggle cut off. That silence was worse than the sound. Callie ran. Through twisted carnival tents, past rotting popcorn carts, past mirrors cracked into spider webs of her own screaming reflection. The clown followed, boots slamming behind her, breath hot on her neck, the scent of grease paint and rot sticking to her skin like oil. She ducked under a ride only to find dolls, dozens of them, stuffed in a prize bin, but their eyes weren't plastic. They blinked. One doll whispered, voice cracked and hollow.
He only stops when you smile.
The words crawled under her skin like cold fingers. She clamped a hand over her mouth, sobbing. Behind her, the clown's shadow stretched. His laugh deepened, slower now, hungrier. He leaned close, the blade slick with dark congealed blood. His breath, rancid and wet, curled into her ear as he whispered, slow and deliberate.
I know it scares you, and I'm hungry for it.
My crazy ex-girlfriend, Vicky. I should have known better. Vicky didn't cry when I broke up with her. She didn't scream or beg or even blink. She just smiled, too wide, and whispered,
"You'll be back. They always come back."
That should have been my warning. But then she left behind traces, as if she'd never really gone. First, a cupcake on my doorstep. Heart-shaped candle burned to a stump. Icing melted like blood. Then, a dead bird. Tiny, neck-twisted, a satin bow knotted around its throat. A faint trail of wet feathers led right to my doormat. A note slipped under my door. I forgive you. The ink smeared, as if the words were written with tears, or something darker. I changed my number, moved to the far side of the city, scrubbed every trace of her from my life. Still, the scent of her perfume sometimes clung to my home, sweet, rotting flowers. Last night, I found my front door ajar. Nothing missing, except a single photo of me as a child. That photo was never online. Only my mother had a copy. My skin prickled, every shadow in the apartment stretching too long. At 2:13 a.m., 3 taps rattled my bedroom window. Tap, tap, tap. I live on the 3rd floor. Rain lashed the glass, but the tapping was slow, deliberate, measured, just like her voice. I lay paralyzed, air thick with the smell of wet earth and cheap cologne. My own. Then a whisper slithered from behind me.
"Told you you'd come back."
I turned. She stood in the center of my room, water dripping from her hair, soaking into my carpet. Her eyes glistened, pitch black and wild, lips split into a smile that showed every tooth. She twisted a fork between pale fingers, one of my own from the kitchen drawer. She took a step forward, her voice lilted, soft and furious.
"This time I'll never let you leave."
Lightning flashed, the window rattled. In that moment I realized some doors, once open, don't close again. And some breakups never end.
My boyfriend is a werewolf. They walked in pairs through the fog, 4 of them. 2 couples, boots crunching over damp leaves in the dense forest. The air was sharp with pine and something metallic. Kira's fingers were laced with mats. His skin felt hot. Too hot.
Are you okay?
She whispered, her voice trembling as a strange heat radiated from his hand. He didn't answer, his body suddenly trembling violently, muscles twitching beneath his skin like something trying to rip its way out. Branches cracked behind them. She turned, but no one was there, only the wind and a low, wet breath that seemed to crawl along her neck. Then she smelled it, a foul miasma of sweat, blood, and rot, as if something dead had been left to fester, just lurking in the shadows. When she looked back at Matt, his hand twitched violently. The skin split open with a sickening rip, flesh tearing as thick black claws burst through, curving like scythes. His spine arched painfully, bones cracking and reshaping with wet pops and grinding sounds. His face stretched grotesquely, cheeks pulling back as sharp teeth shattered loose and were replaced by jagged fangs. His eyes rolled back, glowing with ghostly light. Kira screamed. Behind her, Emily sobbed, clutching Jason, who tried to hold Matt back, or at least slow the monster emerging. But Matt's growl was no longer human, a guttural, primal roar that shook the trees. His skin split further, thick fur sprouting in patches, crawling like worms across his arms and neck. His legs bent awkwardly, lengthening and thickening, the bones reshaping into powerful haunches. He didn't say her name, he growled it, a sound that wasn't his anymore. She ran, heart hammering, but she already knew what his teeth would feel like. They had kissed only seconds ago.
My girlfriend is a vampire. Ethan woke in the dead of night, chest heavy, lungs straining. Leela was sitting on him. Her weight pressed him into the mattress, her face inches from his. Her hair hung wet, dripping onto his cheeks, but the windows were locked, the room dry. She was smiling, too wide, too many teeth.
Ethan,
She whispered, her voice echoing inside his skull like more than one
Ethan.
person spoke. He tried to move, couldn't. Her hands pinned his wrists with unnatural strength. Her grip tightened, nails sinking deep into his wrist. Then her head twitched, jerking in short, unnatural snaps. The light caught her face. Her eyes burned red, and black veins crawled beneath her pale skin like living cracks. Her jaw cracked, bones splitting, mouth stretching wider, until it no longer looked human. He tried to scream, but her cold palm slammed over his mouth. Shh, she hissed, her tongue dragging cold across his throat. The last thing he felt was her teeth sinking into him, and the wet red sound of his blood filling her mouth.
The siren's wake. He woke up face down in sand that pulsed beneath him, as if the beach itself had a heartbeat. Mouth full of salt. The taste was thick, metallic, like old blood. Tongue dry and gritty, scraping against something sharp, like he'd been chewing seaweed and bone. His lips were cracked. His skin stung, a burning, raw sting, as if something had clawed him open and poured salt into the meat of him, until it blistered and bloomed. The beach was silent. No gulls, no waves. Just the distant hiss of breathing water. Slow, in, out, like lungs straining beneath the earth. The sand reeked, thick and sweet, the stench of rot and bloated fish left to burst in the sun. He tried to stand, but something was wrapped around his ankle. It pulsed, cold and slick, tightening with every heartbeat. He looked down. Nothing there. Just a ring of seaweed, tight, fresh, still dripping red, the colors seeping into the sand like a wound. Then he heard it. A voice. Wet. Gurgling. Wrong. Singing a tune that scraped at his bones. Not from the shore. From beneath it, the tide had vanished. But in the distance, a figure crawling from the black water on elbows that bent the wrong way. Her hands dug through the wet sand, fingers splayed too wide, nails ripped and bleeding. Her long tail dragged behind her, leaving a slick, red trail that steamed in the cold air. Her hair clung in knots. Her skin shimmered, not pretty, slimy, translucent, cracked open in places, leaking a pale, milky fluid. Her eyes locked on him, pitch black, deep, holes punched through midnight, reflecting his own face twisted in terror. She opened her mouth, too wide, too slow, like something cracking apart. The corners tore, revealing rows of teeth that writhed and twitched like maggots. He turned to run. The sand shifted. It clung to his feet, sucking him down with greedy, unseen mouths. A hand burst from beneath, pale blue, veined, webbed, the skin stretched too thin. It grabbed his leg. Her voice came again, slithering wet and cold into his ear, echoing inside his skull like seawater poured into bone.
You're my dinner.
Then she yanked. The ground gave way. He was dragged beneath his screams, swallowed by sand and salt, his lungs burning as the cold chewed into his ribs. He felt the world above vanish, replaced by darkness that pressed in on all sides. The last thing he saw before it took him her face, inches from his, still smiling, her mouth split wide, her song crawling into his mind, her eyes black as midnight, reflecting his own drowning face, until it wasn't his anymore.
The circle. 3 girls sat cross-legged on the rotting floorboards. Darkness crawled along the walls like something alive, writhing in the corners. Only one candle burned small, trembling, drowning in its own wax. Their hands were clasped in a circle so tight their knuckles had gone white. The silence was suffocating. Until it wasn't. A whisper, a name that shouldn't be spoken.
Vireya.
It echoed from beneath the floor, ancient and cracked, like bone grinding on bone. The others repeated it, voices dry and cracking.
Vireya. Vireya.
3 times. Then, nothing. The air thickened like syrup-heavy, choking, sweet with rot. Beneath them, something that had slept for decades began to stir. A sound rose, wet, hungry, like flesh tearing, like sinew snapping. The candle flame bent sideways, reaching toward the shadows as if pulled by unseen fingers. Lena's grip tightened, her palms slick with sweat.
Don't.
Mia whispered.
Whatever happens, don't let go.
But Lena's fingers slipped. The moment the circle broke, the candle died. Absolute blackness. A waxy, smoky odor pressed in, thick as velvet. No breathing, no heartbeats, only void. A dry, bitter taste coated Lena's tongue, as if she'd swallowed dust from the grave. Then a breath, ragged, close. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. The floorboards groaned under the weight.
Lena?
Asha's voice broke, small as a heartbeat. Silence. Then the voice came. It used Lena's mouth, but not her words. Too deep, too old, too hungry.
She's watching from behind her own eyes now.
The candle flared back to life. Lena stood swaying, her eyes black from corner to corner, pupils like empty pits. Her smile stretched too wide, tearing at the edges. Black liquid dripped from her mouth, thick as oil. She looked down at her friends. And nothing human looked back, her head tilted to an impossible angle.
You wakened me. Now I need to be fed.
She stepped forward.
Who wants to go first?
Flight 665. Final boarding call. Marissa boarded just before midnight. The gate was strangely quiet. No staff, no boarding call. Just static leaking from unseen speakers. Flight 665, gate B13, seat 14A. The jet bridge smelled of cold metal and smoke, like a fire long put out. When she stepped into the cabin, a hollow chill brushed over her. The plane was nearly full. Every seat occupied, but no one stirred. They sat facing forward, straight-backed, unmoving. Their skin looked dull, waxy, like porcelain dolls left in the sun. Their clothes dated, some from decades ago. She murmured, "Excuse me," as she stepped past. No one responded. Not even a blink. She sat in 14A. The window was fogged over, ice cold. Her seatbelt clicked into place by itself. She tugged at it, but it locked tight. The cabin lights dimmed and stuttered. The engine shivered to life, vibrating low, remembering how to start. The intercom crackled.
Ladies and gentlemen, preparing for unusual conditions. Brace for heavy turbulence. The storm is worse than expected. Impact may be immediate.
She looked around. Still no movement, no breath, no life. But the cabin was tilting, like it was remembering a fall.
Brace!
The lights flickered violently. A suitcase tumbled into the aisle. No one reacted. The woman across from her leaned forward. Her eyes locked on nothing. Her mouth opened wide. She whispered,
"You should smile."
The lights died. The sound died. Even the cabin pressure lifted. When the lights came back, she was alone. Every seat empty, tray tables up, seatbelts coiled neatly, like the cabin had never been occupied. The fogged window had cleared. Outside, the tarmac was still. Just the blinking red light at the wingtip. The intercom clicked.
Thank you for flying. You may now exit the aircraft.
But the doors were closed. Then it crackled once more.
You missed your departure, but don't worry, we'll try again soon.
Little hands, Part 1. Milo looked like every artist's version of innocence. Soft curls, freckles, and bright green eyes that captured hearts when he smiled. He arrived at the house with shadows behind his eyes. Quiet, meticulous, unnervingly so. The caseworker had warned, deep trauma, what he needs most is patience and love. 3 failed placements before. One ended abruptly after what the clinical file labeled a catastrophic incident. Details redacted. Still, he charmed them. Never complained, never raised his voice, never showed a glimmer of disobedience. But he didn't play like other children. He watched. While others chased and shrieked with laughter, Milo stood motionless, absorbing, calculating behind that perfect smile. Then they discovered the artwork, tucked carefully beneath his mattress. Intricate crayon illustrations, limbs contorted at impossible angles, faces with hollowed-out eyes, expressions frozen in silent terror. His foster mother found them and knelt beside him, voice steady. "Milo, what are these drawings about?" His smile never faltered. "Just friends I invented." That night, silence blanketed the house until the whispers came. Her name spoken in fragments, drifting down the hallway like autumn leaves. She checked each room. Nothing. Finally stopping at his door. Milo lay perfectly still, eyes shut, breaths measured and even. But freshly pinned above his bed hung a new creation. A child standing over a body, red crayon smeared like blood. Then 2 green eyes opened, wide, watching, waiting. That smile again. Perfect. Practiced. "I think I'll stay here forever," he whispered. What terrible secrets does Milo hide?
The genie's lamp. The lamp felt wrong in his hands. Ice-cold brass that burned his palms, caked with dust that tasted like grave dirt when he breathed. The metal groaned as he rubbed it, and the air turned thick as syrup. Smoke poured out, reeking of sulfur and rotting jasmine. She unfolded from the darkness, beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful. Her skin was porcelain white, stretched drum-tight over sharp bones. Gold eyes blazed like molten coins, never blinking. When she smiled, her teeth were too sharp, too many.
3 wishes.
She purred, her breath scalding his face with the sweet, sick smell of decaying flowers. His first wish tumbled out. Money? The sound hit him like a freight train. Coins cascading, bills fluttering, cash registers screaming. His pockets burst with weight. The air choked him with the metallic stench of fresh bills. Ink still wet, mixed with something that smelled like copper pennies and blood. His second wish? Women. They materialized around him, silk and perfume and hollow laughter, but their skin was marble cold, their touches like spider webs dissolving on his flesh. Their eyes were black glass, reflecting nothing. The air grew heavy with roses and rot, like a funeral parlor. His pulse hammered with desperate hunger. For his third wish, he reached for the genie herself. You. Her lips crashed against his. Honey and ash, fire and frost. For one perfect heartbeat, he felt alive. Then the cold hit him like a sledgehammer, hollowing him out from the inside. The world shattered into brass fragments. His body dissolved like sugar in rain. His name, his memories, his very self, all of it got sucked into the lamp's hungry darkness. From somewhere impossibly far away, her laughter echoed.
Welcome home.
Inside the lamp, he could taste everything now. The desperation of every fool who'd held it, the metallic tang of their regret, the bitter anticipation of the next victim's fingers on cold brass. The lamp grew quiet, waiting.
The echo in the trees. Eli only meant to hike until sunset, but the trail markers vanished an hour ago. And now the forest looked the same in every direction. Black trees rising like bones. The underbrush quiet. The air thick with the smell of wet moss, coppery sap, and something else. Like something small had crawled under the roots to die and never left. He checked his phone. No bars. Only one notification. You left the trail. Probably a glitch. He turned in a slow circle, searching for anything familiar, a path. A break in the trees, a way out. Then he heard it, his own voice.
Hello? Anyone out here?
But he hadn't spoken. It came from deeper in the woods. Same tone, same rhythm, just slightly off, like it wasn't repeating, it was remembering. This time he called louder.
Hello?
The reply came quicker, closer.
Hello?
But this time it sounded like the word had been peeled apart and stitched back together. The forest didn't feel like forest anymore. No rustling leaves, no insects. The silence had weight, like something holding its breath. He started to walk, but the ground beneath him felt wrong, spongy, like skin underfoot. His flashlight flickered, even though the battery was full. Then he saw it, a figure, back turned, still, between two trees, maybe 20 feet away. He stepped forward. Twigs snapped under his boots, loud in the silence.
Are you okay?
He called. The figure didn't move, but he heard a reply from right behind him.
Are you okay?
His voice, exact. He spun around. No one. Just his own footprints in the mud, fresh, deeper than they should be, like he'd been walking in circles. He turned back. The figure was gone, but its shadow was still there. And now the woods echoed with voices. His voice. Hundreds of them, calling from every direction. Help! Where are you? Help me, please. Hello! Each one a little more broken than the last, like something was practicing, refining, becoming. His flashlight died. The dark swallowed the trees whole. Then footsteps, wet, slapping the mud. Too fast to be human. He ran. Branches clawed at his arms. Roots grabbed his ankles. The air grew hotter like breath on his neck. Behind him, the voices were overlapping now. Tangled, rising. Hello, help me. You, where? Then his own laugh from 10 different directions. And then they all spoke at once. Silence. The forest held its breath. Then his phone screen flickered awake, glowing from the mud. You never left. You were always here.
The Midnight Game. They warned, never play it, never summon the Midnight Man. But curiosity whispered louder than fear. At exactly midnight, he struck a match, the tiny flame shivering in his trembling hand. He knocked on the door 22 times, then stepped into the void where shadows devour light. The rules were simple but merciless. Keep the candle burning, never stay in one place, and never, ever let him touch you. At 3 a.m., the flame flickered violently, like a heartbeat fading fast. At 4, footsteps soft but relentless echoed behind him, cold breath brushing his neck. By 5, the candle guttered and died, drowning him in a thick, choking darkness. Then came the silence, broken only by the cruel tightening of icy fingers squeezing his throat, crushing the scream from his lungs. He never saw the last rule because no one does. No one survives until dawn.
The Pumpkin Man. They say, years ago on Halloween night, a man was left for dead in the fields behind Maple Hollow. No one remembers his name, only the story. By morning, his body was gone. Vanished, without a trace. Now, every October 31st, when the wind rattles dry corn stalks and jack-o'-lantern candles flicker with ghostly light, he returns. Some say he's hunting those who wronged him. Others whisper he just wants company in the cold, endless dark. The old ones say there's a way to know he's near if the air turns heavy with the stench of rotting pumpkin, if the night crawls icy fingers up your spine, if the lights around you flicker 3 times and you hear straw dragging across dry leaves. Don't look back, especially if you're wearing red, because that's who he's searching for, the ones who left him bleeding in the dirt. And when he finds you, he won't run. He doesn't need to. You'll already be frozen, as his glowing carved grin burns through the dark, and that rusty knife gleams under the moonlight. One rule everyone agrees on. If you see the man with the pumpkin head, run hard, run fast, because when he smiles, you're already dead. Thanks for surviving the night. Subscribe to the Poetic Storyteller for more. Happy Halloween!